would like to remove and further discuss, or is there a question of clarification? Okay, hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda in its entirety as presented, which includes the following: the Board of Education meeting minutes from October 8th and October 15th, our personnel report, our actual payrolls, bills, and checks, travel report, multilingual position at RTMS, the equipment disposal, and the treasury resolution.
Second.
Moved by Bianchini, second by Friedland. Could you please? Next up is RTEA comments. Bob, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the RTA Executive Committee and the entire membership, I'd like to thank the Board of Education and the administration for the excellent ongoing working relationship we continue to have. I'd like to thank Mrs. Pfister and Mrs. Bianchini for having dinner with myself and Dr. Beth Pauls tonight. It was quite lovely, and you're two very lovely individuals with incredible lives. So getting to know you was certainly the highlight of my evening and really my week. We know that the state of the world is at a crossroads right now, at an interesting point, specifically the potential destruction, potential destruction of the Department of Education by President-elect Trump. And I sit on the IEA Board of Directors, and we're currently looking at any possibilities of what we can do to combat that, and going forward after that, the kinds of things that we're going to have to do to make everything work if that happens. So thank you all, and we know that we'll continue to work together no matter what happens. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, next up are visitor comments. At this time, I'd like to encourage and recognize any members of the audience to approach the board with a comment or question by completing a visitor comment form. Please do note that the board and administration typically does not respond, and if you wish for a response, please provide your name and number or email for a member of the board or administration to get back to you. Speakers are encouraged to limit their time for others to participate. A 3-minute time limit per speaker with an overall 60-minute maximum for visitor comments per our current policy. Okay, hearing none, let's move to board communications. This is an open agenda for all board members, I should say. Would anyone like to kick this off? Please do. Yes, ma'am.
I even wrote it all down
Look
so
at you.
I wouldn't forget. And by the way, I want to say congratulations to Ms. Porter, who completed an extraordinary journey hiking the Appalachian Trail. So congratulations to her. That does not word business, but just want to say. So the kickoff concerts at RTMS for band, orchestra, and chorus, they were phenomenal. It's amazing to see what the kids, under the direction of our very talented teachers, can do in such a short period of time, because some of these students are starting fresh, and I mean, some of them have only been playing since 5th grade. So it was just a really fun, lighthearted concert with a couple moments of screaming that totally threw me off, but it was very fun, and it was just a cute kind of tribute to the Halloween season. Can I keep going?
Please.
And if anybody wants to stop me. Euclid Bingo Night. I was not able to attend, but everyone who I talked with that was able to said that it was an absolute blast. It's fun when you throw pizza and kids with bingo cards into the mix, and very competitive parents, and gifts and things like that. It was just, everyone said that they had a really wonderful time. So I don't know if anybody else was able to make it and wanted to add to that.
I got to call it.
How was it?
No, Euclid.
Oh, Euclid. I called Euclid.
You called You come out.
Okay, I mixed them. Good thing I'm separating you, alright?
I still remember Lewis telling jokes last year. Like, it was like the best dad jokes ever. They just came out of nowhere. They were fantastic.
He had some pretty good ones this year.
Perfect.
The B12 one.
Yeah.
Oh, it's always a B12. But this one I did a little bit more research. It's very good for your red blood cell production, if
Perfect.
you didn't know.
It's true.
So it actually was as fun as advertised. But thanks to Ms. Daly for personally inviting me to do it again this year. So great community there.
And the PTC puts in a lot of work, so that was cool. I'm gonna take a break, but I have two more.
Go ahead. You're on a roll.
Okay. The fall bash for the kids at the middle school. I know my two children had an amazing time and came home like just sugared up. Yes.
Hundreds of dollars on candy sales.
Yes, correct. Everyone that I talked to that was selling candy, like the kids would come up every 5 minutes. That in the nail polish room. I feel like if they didn't come home with 4 layers of nail polish, it wasn't a real party. So they loved it. They were exhausted, but they said that it was a blast. So thank you to everyone who pulled that together, because I know that there's a lot of middle school teachers that really put in a lot of time and effort to get that off the ground and take donations and do everything else. And then my last one is parent-teacher conferences, and even though there were mixed reviews from like the staff about timing, I really appreciated just everyone's patience and getting all that information in the way that it was set up, so that we could really talk about what our students were doing in the moment. Because I know, Bill, you said about how like sometimes the timing is off, so you know the teachers can't really talk about the students in depth, just because of when the trimester switched over. So this was really good, and I felt like it was a really great experience, and everyone was very welcome.
Anybody else? Okay, I called the Indian Grove bingo. Sorry I mixed up the schools, but no, had a very nice time there. That was it was great seeing all the parents and stuff. I did not throw dad jokes down. I just called the letters. I was a straight shooter. And then also I went to the Halloween parade at Minor School, and you know, we have I think almost like 10 of our district kids that go to Minor, so you know, make sure that we're including them as part of our community here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had the chance to go to bingo night in both ones, so I'm not going to say who the better NC was, just for competitive purposes, but they were both really, really great events. And then had the opportunity to go to the Veterans Breakfast on Friday, so definitely kudos to Mrs. Trace and the team that sets that up. That was just an amazing experience for all of the people that attended, and had some really great conversations with some of our, I guess, regular veterans that come consistently, and just hearing those stories. The performances were great and very heartfelt and moving, and I just think it was such a great representation to our young people to see people who have served in various capacities and various services, and just being able to appreciate them. So to the team that puts that on, thank you very much. It was really, really great.
Go ahead.
Okay, I won't pizza and bingo night, really fun. We have a very long list. So Halloween parties, I attended them at Indian Grove, the parade, windy, but it did not snow this year, and it was great. Everyone had a really good time. It's always fun. Indian Grove also had donuts with the grown-ups last week. It seems longer than that, but it was last week. They had good turnout Wednesday and Thursday. So that was fun. And the Veterans Breakfast, I think this is my 3rd time attending, and I am not a morning person, but I will. It is a really special morning, so I encourage everybody to come if they can next year. I felt the same with parent-teacher conferences. As a parent, I appreciated the timing of them, and it is a long one-day marathon for teachers, but everything was on schedule and really well run. So. And last but not least, I echo Mr. Capster. We had dinner with him and Dr. Paul's tonight, and it was just a wonderful fall dinner. And it's Mr. Capster's birthday. He spent it with us, so happy birthday. Thank you for spending the evening with us.
All right, you guys covered everything I was going to say, so just unless anybody else has anything, we can move on. On a more somber note, I will add, to what Bob said about some of the concern about the changes at the federal level, that you know, in particular, there's a chunk of funding that comes through specifically for special needs education, and that's you know, just close to my heart, and I, you know, had some concerns that have been brought to my attention, and you know, done some research, and you know, NSSEO in particular gets about 10% of the funding of their funding through the federal government. Not sure how that's all going to change, or could change, or if it will change, but you know, I kind of, in looking it over, it was also reassuring to know that the vast majority of funding for our schools comes from local sources, and our community has shown again and again that they support our schools and our educational endeavors, and you know, I'm trying to take a little bit of a hopeful note on that. All right, thanks everybody. Let's move on to district recognition.
Alrighty, so November 15th is Board Members Day. So, on this special School Board Members Day, I want to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude for your unwavering dedication and service to our school community. Thank you for the countless hours that you invest, the tough decisions you make, and the passion that you bring to your roles. In recognition of this unwavering dedication to our students and community, we are pleased to share that we have donated a selection of library books in your honor to each of our schools. So those books are in front of you. If you open the tag will list where the books are going, and on the inside cover there's a little medallion emblem with your name on it and school board member. So those will go out to each of our schools. These books will not only enrich our students' learning experiences, but also serve as a lasting reminder of your commitment to fostering a love of reading and education. Just as you support our schools in shaping young minds, these new additions to the library will help inspire a lifelong passion for knowledge. Also, as a token of our appreciation, we're excited to gift you the River Trails lunch bags. Does anyone have one close to model or to hold up? Nice. So just like a well-packed lunch fuels our students for a day of learning, your thoughtful decisions and dedications nourish our schools and community. Together, you're helping to pack the future with knowledge, growth, and opportunity. Enjoy the lunch bags. May they remind you of the important role you play in feeding the minds and the hearts of our students. Thank you truly for being champions of River Trail School Districts, champions of education, and for your continued support of our students and staff. So happy School Members Appreciation Day. School Board Members.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, really. She's clearly, you know, trying out for the spot. Your bingo night spots are in jeopardy. All right, next.
Not yet.
Whoop.
Not yet. No. That's for later. Sorry. That's right. We needed to rehearse. Later.
Wow.
It was just a little teaser. Sorry.
All right, I think. Next up is new business. Education services is first up on the list. Oh, tech update is first?
Yep.
Okay, tech update is first.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for providing me this opportunity to come up and talk to you just a little bit and give you an overview of some of the things that we've been working on in the technology world since kind of last spring, through the summer, and then up and through now and through the rest of this year. I will be coming back in the springtime to give you a little bit more of an update on some of these things that we've been working on this year. So we wanted to kind of talk about this in the context of what trends are we following? Are we making sure that we're providing our students the opportunities to have experiences with? Because our goal with all things that we do really is to be proactive with what we're educating our students about, as opposed to reactive. We want to make sure that we're preparing our students for the kinds of work they're going to be doing now and in high school, and of course in the future in their colleges and jobs, careers. We also want to make sure that we're preparing our staff adequately so the staff understands how to support our students as we are giving them these unique experiences. And then finally, we want to protect our students and our staff. We want to protect their data. We want to make sure that we're protecting their identities, and we want to make sure that we're protecting their security. So that's those are sort of the three things that we're really going to be looking at as we go through this presentation tonight. So first of all, due to the very generous approval of the Clear Touch panels from last spring, we are delighted to share that these have been really successful at Euclid. Every school now has at least one panel to be shared, but Euclid has a panel in every classroom as well as in the conference room and small even intervention spaces. And so just walking around, I was talking to Jody, and she's observed that students are highly engaged. We've seen teachers and students able to be closer to one another, interacting more, so that since teachers aren't kind of tethered by a short cord, they're able to be up in the front with students near them. Students are at the board engaging in these touchscreen panels. So because one of the things that we spoke about when we talked about the Clear Touch panels was to make sure that we provided staff with enough support so that they could really use them to their full capacity. And so we provided a 2-day Clear Touch panel training with a Clear Touch trainer in August. And so we had several teachers from Euclid, at least one per grade level, plus the special ed and coaches, and then at least one from every other school. And then also on day one, like during the Institute Day, we provided kind of an overview, sort of a just-in-time, what do you need to know for day one for all Euclid teachers and staff? So they came and we gave them that. And then I've started to go once a week to Euclid and doing kind of a drop-in, bite-sized PD, just so that we continue to increase their capacity. And really they're like clamoring for more and more PD on these because they're so incredible, and they're excited to see what else they can do for the students. And Indian Grove is having teachers sign up for the panel. They have one that's mobile, and so they've had a great deal of interest where teachers on like a 2-week basis can sign up to have the panel in their room so that they're getting used to them, and then they'll have the same kinds of 2-day opportunity in the summer as well. So next steps, we'll just be introducing more and more components with the panels as we all learn more together. The next slide is about the student touchscreen Chromebooks, and that also was due to your generous support, and I really do want to thank you. And we've heard nothing but positive comments and seen positive things from 1st and 5th grade teachers and classes who now have these touchscreen Chromebooks, because previously only kindergarten students had touchscreen devices, and so especially 1st grade teachers had often reflected that it was difficult for their students to kind of get up and running with the non-touch screens. But now that we have those 2 grades with touch screens, teachers have remarked to me just how much easier it is for students to be able to interact successfully, especially with some of our creative platforms, which really do react well to using fingers and drawing, and it's more of like a natural human interaction. So that's why it's a real trend, even in adult devices, to use fingers for touch. So I appreciate that support as well. And then the next slide. So this is cybersecurity. This is a huge topic of concern for K-12 education, as you probably have heard. K-12 education is one of the top targets for cybercrime because of our relatively low budgets compared to, you know, top corporations, and a lack of large staff to really be able to support cybersecurity. And then also the pristine nature of our data. So we have very pristine data because of our students. And so because of these two factors, it's we have to really take this seriously and do what we can. And so over the last year, continuing on into this year, we've been kind of amping up our environment with cybersecurity. We have several different platforms that we specifically pay for to scan the dark web for compromised passwords. We have various phishing campaigns that we run with staff. We also just recently engaged over the last year and a half with CISA, which is the Governmental Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, which is a department of part of Homeland Security. And so they actually provide amazing service provided by taxpayer dollars, where they'll come in and do actual cybersecurity assessments of your environment. So we had them come in last year and do a cybersecurity assessment of our environment with us. And they also provide other services that typically you can also pay for. But because this is funded by taxpayer dollars for K-12, they provide these services without cost to the district. So we are continuing to engage their services. And I also just recently applied for the FCC new cybersecurity pilot program, which is new. They're trying to see is there interest and need in K-12 libraries for assistance with cybersecurity, and they've just come out saying yes because of the response. They've billions and billions of dollars in requested funds from people like us, and so they started with a pretty small pool, but I think hopefully that will grow and they'll continue this program. So just wanted you to be advised that we're taking this very seriously. And then artificial intelligence, we did put together AI guidelines for our district over the summer. There has been a lot of interest from our staff in how they can utilize generative AI to make their jobs easier, to come up with new and creative ways to engage with our students. Being a K-8 district, we're approaching AI with students differently than maybe we would if we were a high school, of course. We did purchase a platform called Magic School, and that is really geared towards educators, and it's a way for educators to use generative AI to help create lesson plans, create rubrics, create all kinds of things that they use as teachers, but using the power of generative AI. So we've done a lot of work with our staff. There is a student component, but it's very much a walled garden. So it's teaching students how to use AI, but it is absolutely not open generative AI platform. It's within a walled garden. Only a few of our teachers have tried that, but that is a component that we can explore as well. We are also looking to do an AI learning cohort just so that we can learn more together as a district, probably as a book study with myself, and just explore more so that we can be more knowledgeable about AI and everything that it can do while being aware of its limitations, because of course it's not human and it's fallible. There's concerns about bias, there's concerns about incorrect information, because it's just using what is out there. And so that's why one of our main messages to staff when we do PD is this is something that you need to apply your professional and human lens to, whatever the output is. You look at it, you take it, and you edit it or change it or adapt it so that it meets your needs. So it's really kind of like a starting point, sort of a building block. But we always say make sure that you do that stop, and it's never just output. Give it to students or use it for your professional purposes. So with that, we, in honor of National School Board Member Day, we thought it'd be fun to put together a tribute, and since none of us are professional songwriters, it would have taken us months to put this together, but with the use of an AI tool, we put together this song honoring you in a matter of minutes. So please enjoy.
In the heart of our district, they stand so tall. working together, answering the call. They fall to their time of love and care to make sure our schools are the best anywhere. Donna Bill, Robert and Kim, Janine, Louise, and Becky, our thanks to them. Through every challenge, through every plan, they give their all for the kids and the land. They're the ones who make the tough decisions, guiding us with wisdom and vision. A bright future is what they seek for every student, every week. They're the ones who make the tough decisions, guiding us with wisdom and vision. A bright future is what they seek for every student, every week. They're the ones who make the tough decisions, guiding us with wisdom and vision. A brighter future is what they seek for every student, every week. They're the ones who make the tough decisions. Donna Bell, Robert and Kim, Janine, Louise, and Becky, our thanks to them. Through every challenge, through every plan, they give their all for the kids and the land. So here's to the team who always gives, with passion and heart they help us live a better tomorrow with each step we take. Forever trails, they make it great. Donna Bill, Robert and Kim, Janine, Louise, and Becky, our thanks to them. Through every challenge, through every plan, they give their all for the kids and the land. So let's all sing and give a cheer for our school board members year after year. We appreciate all that you do. River Trails is better because of you.
Thank you all.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm still going.
Just
It's like free bird, isn't it?
My comments aren't really questions, they're more anecdotal. So we had dinner with Dr. Pauls and you asked how the touch screens are going. And she had great feedback. The kids are really engaged. They learn the technology faster than the teachers. And that most importantly that they're hung at the right height for great interaction. I think the other screens were hung higher for different reasons, but she said they love them and they're excited to echoed what you said, they're excited to learn more how to use it more. The touchscreen on the Chromebooks, I have a 5th grader. Anecdotally, I will say he gets his Zern done probably 30% faster, just because he's not, and that's a big deal because he's got 5 of them. And you know, if you take a break, Zern often times out. He would have to. It's a lot less crying and frustration. So thank you. And then my son also got to use the Magic School AI platform, and the way they used it, they have a vocab and test every week with definitions, roots, spelling, and she basically created like a quiz. The AI asked them questions. It kind of learned like what they needed extra help with. It gave them feedback, and he studied more for the test than he ever did because he was involved with it and kept showing it to me. He really liked it. So, and he got 100 on the test. So there you go.
Anybody else?
Did you develop that? Because I read that AI guidelines only because the place where I work at, I'm not sure if they have one yet. But I was reading it. Did you develop that from the ground up?
No, there's an organization called Teach AI or something, and they've got a Teach AI toolkit for districts, and it basically had that template, and I adapted it for our district. Yeah.
Okay, because I really like it. We use Diffit, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if they have something similar, because that was very helpful. I thought that was a very clear, concise. I mean, I know the document's still long, but there's a lot of ways to use the tools that we're using to get things done quicker and to manage our time more efficiently. So I was just curious. Okay, thank you.
I have 2 questions. The first one, is there any chance that we could get like footage of, and I don't mean anytime soon, and this would only be if everybody is, not everybody, but at least 4 of us would like to see this. I'd love to see the touch screens in action. If TA could get some footage of it, or if you guys are visiting Euclid, or and I don't mean like by Friday or anything, but in the next month or so, if we can get some video footage of how they're used. And my kid isn't in a grade that has them, so I kind of rely on you guys to explain it. But if I could see it, I think I would be able to understand it and probably appreciate it better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can do that.
Anybody would echo that?
I would think that they could, just like they demonstrated 3D printing and all come to the board and do a little presentation, like we've done with other little presentations of
It's
what's
an option.
going on in the school.
It's not, but I mean to see the kids using it.
That's what I mean,
During-
have the kids come in and have a teacher do a lesson with them, or half a lesson.
I'm not opposed to it, but I just want to see them in action. How that's done. I leave it up to you guys. That's not a bad option.
That way the
at all.
community gets to see it in action too.
Sure.
Otherwise, we just see a video that would be
Correct.
sent
Which
to us.
it could be broadcast on our
Oh, okay.
as well. But I understand where you're coming from. I don't disagree. But I don't want to make this too cumbersome of a. I don't want to assign homework for anybody. But I'd love to see it in action. And I don't know if everybody or anybody agrees, but I'd love to see it.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
Nice. And then the other question is more speculative. Do you think we'd ever go to like ebooks? I mean, I know we're obviously surrounded by books and we all love books, and I'm glad that I love the dedicated books we got today. But are any schools going in that direction yet?
I don't think so. I actually, my background is I was a librarian, so I actually have my master's in library and information science, and I was a school librarian for 12 years, and so I really believe in the importance of having like physical books. I think people like physical books. I think it's important for kids to have physical books when they're learning to read and appreciate literature. So, and also the library is kind of serves as a third space. It's like a different place to go that feels different. So, and I have to say, like, even as a librarian, we would push, we have ebooks, we can get ebooks, even for like nonfiction research and things like that. But I think there's other things that are working better for like nonfiction, like databases where you can get magazine, newspaper, reference book articles. Ebooks, I think, are harder. They're cumbersome for kids to like really manipulate, especially if they're trying to like get nonfiction information. So I feel like a lot of times, either articles or like actual physical books they could look up, the table of contents or the index. So I don't think so. And I have thought about that as a librarian, but
Sure.
I really don't think so.
Okay, fine.
Well, and I mean, we still use Epic and some of those other book sources that are online tools. I just don't think curriculum and instruction is surrounded around it. But do we use Reading Ally too? Don't we use? Is it for special?
And a lot of
not
our
anymore.
curriculum is online. So like Zern, there's like math curriculum, there's reading curriculum. There's lots of curriculum that is online. So I would say like as far as pleasure reading or research, I would say still importance of actual books.
I mean, my kids tell me how old school I am, and I don't know if reading hard books is old school.
No, it's not. You
I
come
still
into a
appreciate it
library in
myself.
elementary schools or at middle or even high schools, and kids love they still check out
Sure.
library books. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. All ahead. Anybody else?
I just wanted to mention, thank you so much for your close attention to the cybersecurity and really investing a lot of time and effort into that, which is very clear in your presentation. Thank you for taking the initiative to look for those grants that can help us, as that's probably something that is easy for us not to recognize. Until something bad happens, it doesn't come to the forefront. So thank you for being very, very proactive on that and really being cautious.
Absolutely.
I want to say, I work in technology, and I think that, listening to your presentation, you're really on top of things, and, IT can be a kind of a thankless job sometimes, especially when things are working well, and I think it's good to call out the good work that you're doing and the rest of the staff are doing because we're not dealing with the issues that could come up with not managing this stuff well. So, and thank you for the proactiveness around, some things I really liked hearing was the focus on the MFA and the cybersecurity and, that kind of nuts and bolts stuff that, may annoy some users, really keeps the, I mean, it can, but it really does, protect the organization and the data and is quite a service to our staff and students. So thank you to all of you.
Absolutely, and I think staff is getting the message. I really think they're doing they're reporting email now through our phishing tool regularly, and it's pretty impressive. They seem to have gotten the message.
I feel it all the time.
Okay, thank you so much. Next up is the fall assessment and summative designation.
Good evening, everybody. And I want to start by thanking Alicia and her team. They are a small and mighty team. Robert, you kind of referenced that. We have very few members of our technology team, and they get arm pulled in just about every possible direction. So the ability for them to stay focused on teaching and learning is something that's near and dear and true to my heart, because they, as you can see, they really are changing lives of kids, making them more engaged, making them more efficient in their learning, which makes them less frustrated. So we're very proud of the work that the team is doing, and a huge thanks to them. So I am here this evening to provide the other half of the presentation that Dr. Cohen so eloquently started last month, looking at our Head Ready and Heart Ready update for the school year. So I am going to be looking at more of that Head Ready side, looking at the academic measures of where we are this fall, our current standings in terms of our assessment data, and then I am going to sum up at the end some celebrations around our summative designations that were released on October 30th. So I would be remiss without starting with a thank you to the teachers and the students, because without them and without their hard work that they bring every day to school with them, we wouldn't be here to celebrate this information tonight. So a lot of times we talked about things going unnoticed, hard work going unnoticed. How hard our students and our teachers work is really very commendable. As I previously noted, I'm going to start out this evening with just a very short synopsis of what our fall data is looking like. This is very important to our teachers and our administrators in terms of setting off on the right track for their school improvement plan. So you had the opportunity to hear from Mr. Timmons, and I believe you hear from Mr. Henkel next month in terms of their school improvement plans, Ms. Daly and Ms. Batesman to follow. This is where that work begins, is really digging into the data that's presented to us when the students show up in the door in August or September, and using that data to chart our course for the year. When I speak of data points, I am going to speak specifically of two different types of data today. That's data that we choose to collect as a district and data that is chosen for us by the state. So when I speak of MAP data, you will often hear me refer to it as MAP data or AIMSWIP data. Those are district assessment measures that we give multiple times over the course of the year to check not only academic achievement, but also academic growth. And the Illinois Assessment of Readiness, the IAR data, is that data that comes to us from our state assessment that we take once a year in the spring. This chart should look rather familiar to you. This is something that I have presented over the course of the last several years. This in particular is an achievement graph of how our students are performing in the fall on the MAP assessment. So it's a percentile rank, and it really shows us from year to year where our cohorts of students are performing. There's not a lot of information here that's surprising. The one thing I would like to point out is we did not have a really good year in COVID where you're seeing those black lines. That is there simply as a marker for you to show a visual designation between prior to COVID-19 and after COVID-19 in terms of some learning trends. So really what you'll see here in the area of English language arts is that there's nothing remarkable about our scores this fall compared to any other year when we start off the year. This is really good data for us to have because this allows us to plan forward. This allows us to be proactive, knowing that we pretty much can estimate where our students are going to come in the fall in each grade level, and we can plan accordingly for our instruction throughout the course of that given year. The one area I would like to point out that is slightly discrepant from that is that yellow box down at the bottom in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. You're going to notice that the light blue bar, or our last year, our current year's data, is slightly lower in grades 4, 5, and 6 in the area of English language arts. So these are some areas that we're digging into. Now we can speculate these were our students that were in preschool, kindergarten, and 1st grade during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Those are foundational years for the development of reading, language, and understanding of the English language. We can speculate that these students possibly have some foundational gaps due to some lapses in instruction during that time. So these are areas that we are really digging into as academic teams, school improvement teams throughout our district to make sure that those students' gaps are being filled in and that those averages continue to climb each and every year. So really, other than that on this graph, you can see that our 8th graders' performance is very consistent from year to year. You can see that our 2nd grade performance is one of the highest that we've ever had, which is a great success, and that we will be able to hopefully continue to accelerate that growth moving forward. So while that isn't a perfect picture, while we do see a couple grades in need of support, it is important for us to look at ourselves in comparison to the norm population. On this graph, the norm population is the green bar. So you can see that in almost every grade, we are outperforming the national norm for that particular grade level. And this is what we expect of ourselves, and this is really good information for us to see. You can also see that that 4th grade gap is lesser, and that is the same cohort of students that we saw in the prior graph that may need some additional foundational skill building. So that is something, again, that we would raise caution of and that we would want our teams to pay particular attention to as they're looking deeper into that student achievement data. Moving on to math, this is a very similar visual for you. And you can see again that we have very few surprises on this graph. We have again accelerated achievement at 2nd grade. We have great achievement at 8th grade, almost exceeding our highest expectation that we've ever had. But again, in those middle grades are areas where we need to continue to focus and we need to continue to monitor student growth over the course of the given year. This is a little bit more apparent in 3rd grade on our math data than it is in the reading data. But in comparison to national norms, once again, you can see that all grade levels are at or above the national norm population for achievement. The next graph's going to look slightly different, and that's because we are moving on to a different data set, if my mouse allows me to. Patty, can you help me? I wonder if the battery died. There we go. All right, this is our AIMSWeb data. So this is the data that we collect on our youngest learners, our kindergartners and our 1st graders. And it organizes the data in a little bit different ways. It looks at risk levels. So any students falling in that green zone are students that are at no or very low risk for any sort of challenge meeting their growth targets. The yellow and the red are students that are at slightly higher risk levels. The reason I circled the cohort from this year for kindergarten on the left-hand side is because if you look historically over the course of the last 5 years, they have the highest performance of any kindergarten cohort we've seen in the last 5 years. So this is very, very exciting data for us, and we are seeing this in the classrooms. We are seeing our students coming to school ready to learn, able to learn with a lot of pre-academic skills already in place. On the right-hand side of the screen, you can see our 1st grade data. It is important to note that the test does change rather significantly as our 1st graders take that assessment. We move away from letter name, letter sound, breaking things down into syllables, into reading connected text. Not all 1st graders are there yet. Not all 1st graders are fluent readers. So if they can't yet read 10 connected words within a minute, they fall into a slight level of risk zone. So what we can see from this data is, over the course of the last 4 years, we know what we're going to get. We know where our 1st graders are going to come in, and we know that with this data, we are able to almost eliminate that red zone by the end of the school year. So our teachers and our interventionists and our multilingual teachers are continuing to put all of the great things in place in order to get us there by the spring. Moving on to our math data for our littlest learners, you'll see very, very similar trends. Noticing again, this fall's data for our kindergartners is just extraordinary. We're so excited to see where we get to take them by the end of the year. And also looking at that 1st grade data, not having any surprises as we move into our curriculum for 1st grade. So all in all, our key takeaways, we really didn't have any surprises from our fall data. It was very much what we expected it to be. We do have some grade levels in literacy that we really want to dig a little bit deeper into. The data that I've showed you today is a very high level data. What our schools and our teachers and our grade levels are doing is they're digging deeper into that data. They're looking at specific standards. specific cohorts of students, to specific student groups, to really figure out how to meet their individualized needs. And what you're going to hear in the school improvement presentations, and what you've already heard slightly from Mr. Timmons, is our focus this year is really working on that differentiation, dialogue, and discourse in order to accelerate that learning in all of those grade levels. And in the area of math, again, no real surprises. We do continue to see some lower achievement than we did prior to COVID-19. This is not an anomaly to River Trails School District 26. This is something that is being felt across most schools within Illinois. We are very excited about the growth we saw last year in math with our new curriculum. We're excited about the new curriculum we have in place in the middle school. We are spending a lot of money and a lot of time on professional development in the area of math, and we are really hoping to see those scores return back to where they were in previous years. So I am going to shift gears now into the second objective for the evening, and that is to celebrate because we have received our school accountability scores from the state of Illinois, and we are excited once again to know that all of our schools that receive ratings were found to be commendable. This is a very high standard of schools to make, and we're very, very proud of the work that they do. Just again, to reference, Prairie Trails is not given a formal rating because we do not have first grade students within that school. So unfortunately, you will not get to see an official label on Prairie Trails, although we know they fit right in with the rest of the pack. I'm going to slide past this next slide because it's probably becoming redundant to you over time, and move into just one redefinition of student groups. So we talked a little bit about student groups in last month's presentation. Student groups is something that's really important to us as a district because we are not only rated on how we do for all students or our entire student group, but every single student group that we qualify for is measured against the same standard. And the purpose of that is equity. We want to make sure that every single student in this district, in our buildings, are being given that same opportunity to learn and to grow. And so how the state does that, and what they look at is they look at all of these different groups that are listed across the top. If we have more than 20 students in a particular student group, our data is looked at individually for that student group and compared to our all data, and it needs to be commensurate. So we need to make sure that our student groups are performing close to the same level as our all student groups. So what you can see on this slide is, if you remember years previous, you saw a lot more cells blacked out. We did not have a lot of student groups in different buildings. And what we're finding now is we have a lot more diversity in our buildings, and almost every student group that is recognized by the state is present in each one of our schools. So Indian Grove is the only school that still has 2 student groups that are not yet recognized, but every other school for the most part has all student groups recognized. I'm going to go pretty quickly through these next couple slides. I'll speak a little bit more in detail on River Trails Middle School, and just know that all of the schools have the same slides to follow if you're interested in some of that data. But basically what I want to do is just give you a preview of what you would see if you went on to the interactive report card site. This is a side-by-side view of the schoolhouse. That's the visual representation on the interactive report card site. The left-hand side is last year's data. The right-hand side is this year's data. I've used some coding on here to show areas of significant growth. That is indicated by a green arrow, and anything marked with a yellow box is an area that the schools are digging a little bit deeper into to see why we may have had an index score decrease. But I would be remiss to not start at the top and look at that index score, that overall index score. You see up here that in 22-23's data, we had an index score of 71.97 for our middle school, and we were commendable. It would be very easy to say this year that we did the same, we're commendable again, but I want you to look at that index score in particular because we had some significant growth there. Our overall index score as a building went up almost close to 2 points there for the middle school, which is excellent. So we are seeing growth even within that commendable scale. This next slide, which also can be found on the interactive website, shows us where we fall in relation to our peers across the state. So when you think in terms of a traditional bell curve or a bell curve, you can see that River Trails is trending toward that right-hand side of the curve, and we are really not that far from that next level of exemplary. So that's something wonderful to celebrate. This was a record high score this year for River Trails. We're very, very proud of them. I'm gonna skip past my transition there. I want you to take a look at this graph. So what in the world is this? This is our student groups. What should we see in the most optimal situation? In the most optimal situation, we would see a straight horizontal line. We would see a straight horizontal line connecting all to every single student group that we serve. And what you can see here with River Trails is while we are not yet there, not all of our student groups are performing at that same level as our all group, we see that green line on top, which means that every single student group in our 23-24 data performed at the highest level it ever has. So that's something to be very, very proud of at River Trails Middle School. Quickly go through the other schools. This is Euclid School. One thing I want to pause and look at for Euclid School is that we had nearly a 10-point jump in terms of our overall index score as a total school, and almost every area had a green arrow. You can see where we are in terms of other schools, and you can see that again we had a record high for Euclid School in terms of our index score. And while we didn't hit our peak for every student group, we see that green line trending toward the top. You'll notice that gap there because we do not have a student group in that area. And last but not least, our owls. Again, we had a rather large growth in terms of our overall index score from 72 to 78. We had some great strengths in other areas, including that math growth number. And we're really close to that exemplary level. We had lesser student groups at Indian Grove. So maybe you'll see a few more breaks in that graph, but if you look really closely, you can see where those green dots fall in terms of low income and white student groups. All in all, our takeaways, we are very proud of these scores. Our principals, our teachers, our students have done some great work. They've shown tremendous growth. They've earned every rating that they've gotten. They are yearning for exemplary, and we will get there. We're just not there yet. But I'm so proud of the work that we have done to make sure that all of our students are being given that opportunity to learn and grow by the evidence of our student group data. If you would like to dig further into this, you can always go into the Illinois Report Card site, simply type in the name of the district or the name of the particular school, and all of those dashboards are very easy to navigate. Thank you for your opportunity to present this data tonight. Are there any questions?
I have one. So you said that the schools are going to do a deeper dive into the scores. Do you know when we might be able to hear back what those were?
In terms of the process of the deeper dive, or
what they think was the cause of it? Or is that not what they're doing the dive in?
Well, they dive into all of their data. They're looking at those different places where they can target individual plans, right? So their school improvement plans are really based on their data. Mm-hmm. They're looking at their data and then making decisions in terms of what instructional strategies can we put in place in order to help develop and help grow some of those areas in need. So I don't have anything in particular on hand that I could show you, but sure. I could at least detail the process for you if that's something you'd be interested in.
Absolutely.
Sure.
That'd be great.
I can do that too.
Anybody else?
Just following on Bill's question, I think if you're asking is when would we hear the principals, or if Karen or yes,
if we will, when
exactly, if and when would they present? This is what we dug into. These are our action plans. Is that maybe it's not scheduled for what Mr. Hankel is going to talk about next month, but
that is essentially the purpose of their presentations to the board, is to tell you what they're doing with their school improvement teams. And the start of that process is digging into this data, looking at this data in order to craft those school improvement plans. So in a perfect world, I'd be bringing this message to you before they start their presentations so that you could hear those threads throughout their presentation. If next month you aren't hearing that in the messaging, just let me know and we can make that a little bit more clear and apparent in their presentations to you. And then I also can bring back data in the spring to report out on our growth in these areas that we identified today.
That works.
Okay.
Thanks.
Anybody else?
I know you've already explained several times to me for the Ames Web for like that piece for the ELA, like moving from one way that the test is set up to another. Is it the same for the math? Like, does the math also switch significantly from that
Some of the
kindergarten to-
subtests do switch significantly from kindergarten to first grade.
Okay.
They may look at single digit versus multiple digit numbers. They might look at quantity discrimination, so being able to tell numbers that are larger, numbers that are smaller versus missing numbers. So it definitely levels up based on the complexity of the standards at given grade levels.
Okay, I was just curious, because that did seem like a bigger gap, because even when you look year after year,
Right.
it's kind of like you see this dip
Right.
from the 22 to the 23 year for kindergarten, then to first grade. So, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And we think of it in terms of tiers of intervention, tiers of support, and just making sure that over the course of the year, we're seeing those different colors shrink, with the exception of the green. We want to see that increase. And then the other thing that we're really focusing on at the early grades is making sure that just because students are falling in that green or low risk zone, they're still hitting their growth targets for them, and not just kind of maintaining.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just a piggybacker. So what Janine was saying on the, if you go to the Ames Web Literacy,
Mm-hmm.
super consistent in first grade in 21 through 24,
Mm-hmm.
but it's consistently lower than at 2019. So did that
Mhm.
change the test itself
No.
from?
Oh.
No, it's just we
No,
found
and
just
I
stayed-
don't have the data
lower.
on here. 2019 could have been an anomaly. 2019 could have been a year like this year where we just have a really stellar year. I don't have the data on here prior to 2019 to look at that. But no, this is just the trend that we are currently seeing. Now our student demographics have changed, our student populations have changed. That could be something that led into it, but no, the assessment did not change within that given time.
Anybody else?
I do think that's a good point to try to understand. You know, we all want to see arrows moving up, and we want to think that that's because of the, you know, got a direct correlation to curriculum, to
Mm-hmm.
those types of things. But digging into demographics, into, you know, what is comprising those numbers, you know, just so we don't get like a false sense of, hey, we're
Yes.
doing really good,
Yeah,
when in fact, no, we just, I don't know, got a random set of kids that
right,
are excelling,
right.
so.
And actually, we just got our preliminary findings from the state for our multilingual audit, and one of the action steps that we need to take for that is we need to create a data dashboard that allows us to disaggregate between students, for instance, who are EL, who are former ELs, who were never EL, and really dig into that data. So we're going to expand the scope of that to look at multiple different demographics of students so that we can look at our data under different considerations.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you so much. Great job.
All right. I think I'm staying with you.
You're doing the next up is the business services and the Indian Grove furniture purchase.
That is correct.
That is you, all
That
right?
is me. Myself and Mr. Barry, we've been working closely with the Indian Grove staff this school year, Mr. Timmons in particular, to come to you this evening with our proposal for furniture purchases for Indian Grove following their renovation this summer. The basic framework of this memo should look very familiar to you, very similar to that was presented to you for Euclid last year, keeping in mind our goal of equity, cost effectiveness, equitable learning environments. We are proposing this plan to you tonight. As a reminder, in building this out, we're looking for flexibility, integration for the evolving needs of our students. We want to find furniture that's durable and cost efficient. We want to be able to use it in a variety of different ways so that we can create flexible learning environments in order for our students to be in comfortable learning environments and reducing physical fatigue. Something to take into account as we're looking through this proposal this evening is that we will be repurposing any existing furniture that has been purchased for Indian Grove over approximately the last 10 years. A list of that furniture was included for you in the memo. Several things that we had to consider in this furniture purchase were storage. As you're aware, with our new HVAC systems, we are losing some significant shelving that runs along our windows that used to be run parallel to our HVAC system. So because of that, we do need to purchase some storage for the teachers and for the students. We want to have an adequate student workspace, staff workspace, and again, that flexible environment. One thing that was added into this plan that was not in the original Euclid plan last year was the addition of some new front office furniture for the secretaries in the front office. Mrs. Daly had replaced the office furniture the year prior to her renovations in Euclid with the support of Dr. Schuster. So in looking at the overall scope of the Indian Grove plan and the current condition of our office furniture, we are making the recommendation, excuse me, to also provide some new furniture for the secretaries in the front office. So with that, I did propose the timeline, or I shared the timeline of the steps that we have taken over the course of really the last 2 years to come to where we are today. And we are asking the board to approve a proposed furniture purchase for Indian Grove School, to continue our partnership with K-12 not to exceed $501,874.48 for furniture, $132,191.78 for freight and installation. This would again be procured through the First Government Procurement Alliance, and it will continue the work with our furniture plan that is similar to that of Euclid. This allows us flexibility with shifting demographics and populations within the building. We would be able to use furniture across buildings in a very seamless way. Included in the memo, you saw some visualizations of what classroom spaces would look like, in addition to what the library would look like with the purchase of some new shelving and repurposing of some shelving, and also a rendering of the front office space.
Okay, let me get a motion and a second to approve the furniture purchase for Indian Grove School with K-12 not to exceed $501,874.48 for furniture and $132,191.78 for freight and installation to be purchased through one government procurement allowance.
Motion.
Second.
Moved by Ronstadt, second by Pfister. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, could you please call roll?
Friedland,
Yes.
Bianchini,
Yes.
Pfister,
Yes.
Camardo,
Yes.
Wimpy.
Yes.
I vote yes, and Ronstadt.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next up is the Committee of the Whole meeting update. Who wants that?
I'll take that one. Just to kind of summarize, the Committee of the Whole met at 6:30 this evening to talk about future solar and microgrid battery options at Euclid and Indian Grove. It seemed to be a consensus of the majority of the board to kind of move forward and look at prices more closely for the adjusted option one, and we will bring back more information as soon as we gather more concrete numbers looking forward.
Does anybody have any final for tonight? Any final comments or questions on this? On the Committee of the Whole meeting? Okay. So let's move on to the authorization of the transfer of funds from the Education Fund and Operations and Maintenance Fund to the Debt Services Fund. This is an action item. Who's got this?
I will take this as well. This is just a transfer that was presented during the budget. These transfers will cover the costs of debt that was incurred over the previous years, moving it from operating funds to the debt service fund.
All right, let me get a motion in a second to adopt the resolution to transfer funds from the Education Fund and the Operations and Maintenance Fund to the Debt Services Fund as per our budget.
Moved. Second.
Moved by Camardo, second by Bianchini. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, Mrs. Johnson, could you please call the roll?
Yes. I vote yes. Bianchini,
Yes.
Pfister,
Yes.
Camardo,
Yes.
Friedland,
Yes.
Ronstadt,
Yes.
Wimpy.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next up are the committee updates. Let's start off with NSSEO update. Mr. Ronstadt, you are our representative.
Okay, so we can address the items listed in here. We got back the bids for the mechanical upgrades at Kirk. They came in significantly lower than we had the revision, the scary revision. So we are back at a funding plan that includes basically a contribution from member districts to build up a capital fund. This year and next year's requests are to fund this project and potentially future projects. Our portion is $61,800, which will make up a little over 6% of the $1 million per year that NSSEO is looking to basically assess from member districts. So I am looking for some guidance on the board to see if that's okay. This has been discussed with the business managers and with the business manager at NSSEO, and they are in general agreement, but we are looking to vote on this to make this official at our next NSSEO meeting in December. Any questions, concerns, comments?
My first question, Mr. Barry, do you know where this will fall in our budget? The extra money?
The extra money will come probably from the operations budget, the operations and maintenance budget. I don't think it was a part of it, but it would fall under the contingency portion of that budget.
That's the biggest question I had. Anybody else have any questions?
Okay. Next thing up, we continue to work on the strategic plan. We've got quite a bit of information that was shared about just the kind of state of the union, if you will, some of the population demographics data, which I realize I should probably share with the rest of the board. That will be part of the full strategic plan presentation when that comes. Right now, we're in the planning stages, so in the next 4 to 6 weeks, I think we'll have Dr. Meggerly and others part of our district, as well as teachers and staff and administrators at NSSEO working on that long-term strategic plan, which got a lot of work to do. It's definitely called out or highlighted some things. And I will send out the information. The one thing I tell you that jumps out at me, and I've really been saying it for a while, but I'm going to get a lot more vocal about it personally, is the difference in what it means to be a teaching assistant or a support staff at NSSEO versus here at a typical school. First of all, that is the largest population of staff members, the support personnel, and they're, as the kids are high needs, there's a fairly high injury rate, which was pretty eye-opening to see the number of workman comp kind of claims and things that occur there, and it's providing support for a second grader or a kindergartner or a fifth grader or an eighth grader at NSSEO is a very different endeavor than what it is here. So just kind of putting that out there. I think the second thing is that I think we're realizing that we need to maybe do a better job of getting the community to see some of these facilities. We're all pretty familiar with how our schools look, but there's some gaps in there, and we talked about that, but might be an invitation at some time to come out and visit the facilities. And they're great schools, great, it's not like they're completely falling down, but there's definitely there's infrastructure investment needs over there. So, but that's it.
All right, so just to confirm, all board members are in agreement that we're giving Robert the permission to proceed with voting to support the project. Yes? Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure. Next up is the Finance Committee. Mrs. Johnson, you are the chair.
I am the chair, but most of the stuff runs through Ryan, Mr. Barry, so go ahead and talk about all of the stuff that we need to approve.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. We're going to start tonight with the school maintenance project grant as an action item. This is a grant put on by the Illinois State Board of Education. I think you've all probably seen it before. It doesn't happen every year, but it has happened in the last few years. It's a $50,000 grant of matching funds. looking to match of the $4 million or just over $4 million HVAC project at Indian Grove next year. It's basically $50,000 we'll hope to see within the next 2 years. But the board does need to take action in order for us to actually apply for the application.
All right, let me entertain a motion and a second to authorize the administration to apply for the school maintenance grant.
Moved. Second.
Moved by Pfister, second by Friedland. Any comments or questions?
Thank you to you and your team for continuously finding us free money.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, Mr. Johnson, could you please call roll?
Friedland,
Yes.
Bianchini,
Yes.
Grimpy,
Yes.
Pfister,
Yes.
Ronstadt,
Yes.
I vote yes, and Camardo.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, next up is the post-issuance tax compliance report. This is an information item.
This report basically says that we are doing the things we need to do in order to maintain our tax exempt status as a school district. We follow all the laws and procedures of the state and federal government in order to maintain that tax exempt status, which we use for purchasing goods and services throughout the school year.
Does anybody have any comments or questions on this? Okay, hearing none, we'll move forward with the IGA for Treasury Management.
So this report was brought up by the treasurer, which is run through District 214. It hasn't been updated in a few years, which is why they're bringing it back to us. There were some questions that were brought up about some redactions that were taken from the last approved IGA with the treasurer, and when asked the current comptroller over at 214, their response was they've worked with PMA, who does most of the investments for I don't know if you call it a co-op, but the group of districts that the treasurer oversees, and a lot of that is included in the Public Funds Investment Act that we have to follow through the state of Illinois. So they did take out some wording, but it is part of our own policies. It's baked into some of our own policies. Policy 4.30, the revenues and investments, and then some of the other questions were in policy 5.12 for employee ethics. They noted that some of the sections were redundant, and that's why they decided to take them out. They weren't necessarily policy or up-to-date policies. The last time that the IGA was actually approved way back in 2015. Other redactions were taken out by, or moved into the treasurer agreement, which was updated based on an error that we found when the board approved it in June. So just kind of making it a one-year agreement. It was in the consent agenda tonight. So some of the other information was baked into there. But essentially the treasurer is in charge of collecting all the funds and distributing them for all the member districts that still feed into the treasurer. It was encouraged by their legal representation for the board now to oversee it and review it and update it and vote on it every 3 years, as opposed to last time it was just encouraged for people to bring it to the board every few years. Now it's actually getting voted on every 3 years. So.
All right, let me entertain a motion in a second to accept the Treasury Management IGA as presented.
Motion.
Second.
Moved by Bianchini, second by Camardo. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, Mrs. Johnson, could you please call roll?
Grimpy,
Yes.
Pfister,
Yes.
Friedland,
Yes.
Camardo,
Yes.
Ronstadt,
Yes.
I vote yes, and Bianchini.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, next up is the 25-26 year student fees. This is an action item. Ryan, still you?
Thank you very much. So
Need
as,
water or anything? You're good? All right, let's check.
halfway there. So looking forward to next year's fees, we're looking to not only potentially remove the Chromebook insurance fee and move that money in, or move that fee kind of into the total material and technology fee, but also reduce the transportation fee and but also eliminate the total family maximum that has to do with that fee. In order to kind of evenly disperse the same amount of fees and collect the same amount of total fees for the projected budget for next year, we feel that the increase from the materials and tech, removing the Chromebook insurance really will benefit the district staff and make it easier for families and students to pay one fee as opposed to multiple fees. It also will affect our free and reduced population to not have to continue to pay a fee. Some of our fees still out there right now are the required Chromebook fees, and that's a fee that we don't waive, and now we will as opposed to the materials and technology fee. And then the transportation fee for over 95% of the families, it's actually reducing the total cost. We're kind of maintaining an overall cost without knowing the transportation costs next year just yet. This is what we're looking at. There's also a small proposed increase in the tuition, the preschool tuition fee, and one thing that's not in the memo that I would like to point out is the fact that I think it's amazing that with all the clubs and all the sports and all the extracurriculars at River Trails, we don't charge anything. And we even bus kids home after school for free, even if they're not part of the regular transportation. And I think that's something to be proud of too.
No doubt. All right, let me entertain a motion in a second to approve the following for the 2025-26 school fees. Transportation, $140. All riders, material and technology for elementary, $250, and for middle school, $280. Preschool tuition, $3,850. Preschool snacks, $90. Those are all early bird pricing. After May 1st, material and technology increases by $25, and transportation increases by $50.
We have one correction. It's $28.50 for the preschool.
I think originally it was $38.50. I just want to clarify it's $2,850, not $3,000.
2850. Would you guys like me to read the motion again?
Yes, for the record.
Happy to do so. So we need to entertain a motion in a second to approve the following, the 2025-26 school fees. Transportation is $140 for all riders. Material and technology, elementary school is $250. Middle school is $280. Preschool tuition is $2,850. Preschool snacks are $90. That's all reflective of early bird pricing. So after May 1st, the material and technology increases by $25 per student, and transportation increases by $50.
So moved.
Moved by Friedland. Second by Ronstadt. Any comments or questions?
This is not a gotcha moment, so I'm just gonna preface with that. I have more like, remember how we were Bill and I had talked about this a little bit. Does anybody remember the comparisons that we used to do across districts? Do you guys remember that? Mm-hmm. So I had like I had a family, or not a family member. I had someone in the community ask me about looking at those comparisons. And I was just wondering, and it does not need to be done now, if we could possibly like either reinstate that for the next go of fees, or if that's something that anybody would be interested in looking at it. I know that we looked at like bus ridership and the cost there, and then just the overall fees for other districts. But I totally forgot about it, so I apologize.
So you just want to see how our fee structure compares to neighboring districts?
Yes, I think families also kind of want to see that.
Sure.
Like, and just for future reference, or if that's something that someone wants to reach out about. But and then the other item I have is, have we ever considered wrapping in like all the products that people have to buy at the beginning of the school year just into student fees? Like when I buy 8 boxes of
Like
Talking about.
supplies?
Yes, like supplies that we have to bring in, have we ever thought about just wrapping that into student fees?
And then issuing those supplies?
Or just getting, it just, so some of it is like, the school obviously gets a tax exemption on buying certain, like, on buying supplies, like, and I think it would save families time along with giving teachers
Well, it is a
the
fundraiser.
Ticonderoga.
I was gonna say, I think some of the
It is.
PTCs will do a supply pack.
Yeah, it's a fundraiser for the PTCs, so.
It is.
I don't think I would want to take that on, like school supplies for every kid in the district, enrolling that, that'd be a huge undertaking. And then families would probably spend on top of that, they probably wouldn't like some of the things that we would issue at a bulk price, and then they would probably end up spending.
Oh, no, I meant
On
just
top
build
of
it
that.
into build it into like the budget so that the teachers can pick out what they want. I mean, they each individually send out their own sheets anyhow. Like, we're never buying the same like, I do not buy the same products for my 3rd grader, for my 6th grader, and for my 7th grader. They're all different, they're all over the board. It's just, I'm just wondering, I've had a lot of parents come up to me and ask me if that's something that we could throw into the fees rather than having them go out and buy the products that we can't ever find. So just something to consider. I'm just saying, because it's
Yeah,
like
I
stuff.
don't know if I understand. I'm sorry. Because it's like you're saying, you buy different things for your kids, like we would issue school supplies.
No, you feel like we can't find them. Like they don't exist. Like there's no
Give me an example.
There's no 10-pack of crayon. Like I can't find like, or 8-pack of crayon. Like there's not like these things you just buy whatever anyways and then we just throw it in the bag. I don't know, I've had parents come up and say like I can't find these products. So I just hand it in whatever.
Well, then maybe the teachers need to adjust what they're requesting. Maybe
Sure.
are the teachers aware that that product no longer exists? And that's,
No, probably not.
and then I think there's your gap.
I don't think it's a bad question. I don't know how much schools, PTCs make on the fundraiser. It's never reported back. I buy the box every year. I will say some of the supplies are missing from the vendor in the box. Like I have to buy extra things when I do the audit. That's happened a few times. I probably could have emailed, maybe they would have sent it, but I'm just like, I flipped date night of school and I'm like, oh, I don't know markers. I also think like different schools even ask for different supplies. Like the box, the teacher request from Euclid supplies is different list or different brands list than what Indian Grove request. Okay, but I think the question is, can we buy 1,000 folders cheaper than each family can buy 8 folders? And they're all, it's not like, and you wrap it in school. Maybe it's too complicated to do, but.
Is that what you're asking?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I would want to take that on, only because, like, the buying, the storing, the distributing, the start of school, the teachers training, that would be a lot, and I would anticipate that families, some would still want to buy their own things for their kids who are in a different grade level, that might want something different than 3rd grader, 4th grader. That would be a really big undertaking of supply distribution across the entire district.
Okay, I just had families ask, like, is this something that we could wrap in? And I'm like, I don't know.
And we did that for paper supplies, right?
Well, yeah, now we've taken on, like, we had the
Which wasn't
Kleenex
huge,
and everything,
because
yeah.
now, just from the cost of us, like, also just hauling those
You're
supplies,
right.
it doesn't.
Oh, it came back. Just from hauling this, but, I mean, it's a lot of little bitty things, like 40 pencils here. So maybe there's bigger, like, could we bulk buy headphones, or, I don't know.
With the bulk buying, I can see we buy 1,000 red folders and little Mary Sue wants to have the one with the unicorn and doesn't want the red folder. So I don't see,
Okay,
but anyways.
But then that makes the whole point, then we should just be able to buy whatever we wanna buy. Then what's the point of the list?
Well, we do buy what we
buy
want.
whatever
The
we
teacher
want. When
says
the teacher says,
have a 2-pocket folder, you buy whatever 2-pocket folder
Find the
you
folder
want.
you want.
Well, not when I have to buy a red, a blue, a black, and a yellow,
then
because it's
that's that
specifically
teacher.
color coded.
Yeah,
It's for
well,
the
that's-
entire school.
For the middle school, yes, but when you get down, anyways, when you, aren't there certain rules for the, people who are on the free reduced lunch? Do they get some of those fees waived on the,
Yes, the fees on the list get some of those fees waived.
right,
but-
so then, no, I don't,
So if you wanna send me feedback on supplies, feel free to do that. Typically, the buildings will work on their supply list like in early spring, but I'm happy to put that as an admin topic. We can talk through it, look at the brands. I thought we had taken brands off because I don't like brands on supply lists. But send me that. We'll look at it in terms of supplies, but it's not gonna change the fees.
Sorry, no, it will not.
Fees.
Okay, I apologize, Jody, that was completely off topic.
That's all right.
going back to, Janine's request for the, transportation across from other districts, so that the parents can see that, where would we post that so that the parents can see that?
No.
They never saw the other ones.
Yeah, we had it posted in board book.
Sure,
The parents don't see it.
parents don't see board book.
Well, you can access documents if you wanted to. I mean, they could also.
I don't know, I
Public
have,
can't access our.
No, not on board book, but I'm just saying when we had it posted, I was like, they can request to see, and we also put it up on the screen.
okay.
I don't recall us posting it. We may have. I don't recall us posting it.
No, we didn't post it like online, but I mean, like, we had it up on our board and we all looked at it.
So if somebody was going through YouTube and was watching on YouTube, they would see the presentation
Right.
Sure.
on the screen.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean that we're handing it out to people.
Yeah, that's what I was.
No, I don't think we ever did that. Okay. Right.
And now I lost my.
Any other comments or questions?
I'm gonna go in a different direction here. You're asking for the fees for the other districts, and, I've been doing a lot of thinking in the past, I was doing a lot of the thinking, but the amount of administration that we put into collecting these fees for materials that we are using in the classroom, including Chromebooks and technology, as a percent of revenue, it equates to about 1%, which is roughly $250,000 a year. We just spent $500,000 on furniture. Fees are, to some degree, this is public education, first of all, and fees tend to be regressive in a manner where folks that have maybe less money are going to have a harder time paying for the fees, and people with more money in our district are going to have a harder time. And I guess what I'm saying is that, the cities, we used to have city stickers on our cars, okay? It was like $50 and $75 in fees to get a sticker. And there's all the administration that went along with that. And I kind of starting to think like these are kind of like that. Like, why are we putting all this effort into collecting these fees? I know that it's a revenue source. I know that it supplements stuff, but we're not running such a tight budget where maybe we think about in future years of figuring out how to wrap this into just a larger budget and just getting rid of these fees. Because it's not so much money that it's making a big difference in our budget by any stretch. And I don't know, I go back to that public education piece. I also go back to, just what I'm hearing in general, the community struggling in some cases with inflation and with just costs increase in general. And wonder if we could just figure out a way to maybe reverse that trend a little bit and take some leadership there. Because it's really not, in the grand scheme of things, an amount that is making a substantial difference. And we're sure spending a lot of time administering it, collecting it, and doing all this other stuff. The other thing, and Mr. Barry, you said that kind of surprised me. We're getting fees for materials and technology, which are core to instructional technology, but not charging any fees for sports. It's kind of interesting. And I'm glad that we don't charge fees for sports and activities, because we want to lend those things to the public. We want to make the educational experience. But I really those two things put together, I'm really starting to wonder, why are we charging these fees at all? And I'm cool to move forward this year because we got this budget. We're about to, start. But I'd really like to think maybe next year that we think about just figuring out a way to get rid of these and pay for it out of our normal budget. That's my piece.
Anybody else? Okay, hearing none, could you please call roll?
Yes. Camardo,
Yes.
I vote yes. Fistor,
Yes.
Grimpy,
Yes.
Friedland,
Yes.
Bianchini,
Yes.
Ronstadt,
Yes.
motion carries.
Would you want to be on, Robert, would you want to be on the finance committee next year to work on the fees? Or something needs to consider, I don't mean to put you on the
I'm
spot.
not opposed to that, but I think that, I don't know the reaction everybody else had to that kind of my little diatribe there, but why not? Like, I don't know if I need to carry that banner. I think that that's something we need to just ask ourselves as a group and as a community. And
Well, I mean, it seems, in my opinion, it seems like the sports is voluntary. If you don't want to, play basketball, volleyball, or cross country, you don't have to. But you have to come to school.
yeah, and those two things seem
You would
off to
think
me.
we would reverse that.
But I'm not suggesting we reverse it too. We're not, like I said, we're not struggling from a budget perspective. And I just don't see, I don't know, somebody else say something. Like, am I off base here where we could just,
No,
I don't think you're off base. I do think, I think fees, but I think bus, we do supplement that a lot. I would actually like us to promote how much this district pays of the bus fee, because it's a considerable chunk, and I don't think that to your point about showing fees, like, I don't think people realize how much when you sign up for the bus is supplemented by the school district. I think having some fee, whether it's a lower fee for the bus, it does incentivize people to sign up for the bus. We have to plan routes, so we have to
Yeah.
make sure they have, that people who are signing up for the bus are going to be on the bus.
yeah. There's an element of getting some skin in the game. But, transportation is one of those things where you could make an argument for it, but like the instructional materials and the technology things, like that came about history-wise because, in the journey of education, all of a sudden we needed computers. And it was kind of an elective. Like, do we want computers in our classroom? We were asking those questions. Is anybody asking whether we want computers in our kids' classes anymore? No. That's an absolute requirement to the educational experience. And it is a public education, to put any barriers there cost-wise to families. And I'm just listening to the administrative side of this, of, making sure everybody's paid their fee and collecting checks and, getting those, it's just, I agree, the skin in the game of transportation, there's a balance there. And I wouldn't mind, I could see myself getting on finance, but I think I saw enough head bobbings here that maybe we can have a larger discussion about that in the finance committee for next year. And in the budget, maybe, and the administrators can talk about that and figuring out how to just make that go away. And I don't really care what the other districts are doing. I don't really care.
Well, if we made it go away, it wouldn't matter what the other districts are doing.
Yeah. So, that's all.
I have thoughts.
Okay.
Shocker. Yeah. I like where you're coming from, holistically. Actually, during the finance committee meeting, I said, well, maybe we don't raise the tax levy the full 3.4%, and we do it 2.6, something that affects all taxpayers in the district and not just the school family members. If we're looking at incomes and all that. But I know it was part of the budget, it's built in, and we got to fund our projects, so on. It's almost $400,000 in fees, which is, it is 1.3%. But, I had a great 2-on-1 meeting with Jody and Ryan earlier this week to go over my year's worth of questions about how we are funding an extra $9 million of projects. With just, I didn't know where it was coming from, right? That's what my question was all along. And we're always funding it through changes of assumptions by 1% or 2%. assuming an extra 1% of revenue, assuming 2% loss in expenses. So just to evaporate 1.3% of revenue changes a lot of our future 10-year plans of actual incoming revenue to fund our capital funds projects. So that's $4 million worth of something that would just go away. We'd have to take into consideration. So the cumulative effect of it, I think actually does make a pretty solid difference. It probably had a lot more impact when CPI was 1 to 2% instead of 5 and 3.5% this year. So I certainly appreciate the sentiment about where you're coming from. But yeah, at the end of the day, I don't know, to reduce administrative burden, yes, I think that's an objective we would all be on board for. But yeah, we're not overflowing with cash, I guess is a good way to put it. And I think where I came to a confirmed understanding about where we are in our operating funds budget at the end of the day, how it's right around that 55% mark. But yeah, we could spend all this extra money just by changing our assumptions up or down in either way. Understanding where we feel comfortable as a board, what's our bottom floor, and what we want to add to it, what's coming off, or what changes in these assumptions are supporting that ability to do it. So if we want to take away fees, okay, but then what's that impact over the course of the next 10 years? And how does that play into every year's tax levy that we're going to issue? And I'm pretty sure we'll get a unanimous 3.5% levy across the board tonight. So I don't know, certainly up for discussing it every single year in every finance committee, but that's where I come from.
I 100% agree with you. I think that's a goal that I put out there that does definitely have some context, and I do think does need to be, if that among other goals needs to be, put into the larger discussion about where our projections are and where our capital expenditure goals are. I completely share that with you, and I don't like writing off $400,000 a year. I don't know if that's feasible or irresponsible, and I would really like to have a better, to your point, that 50, 55, 60%, whatever it is. I'd love to make decisions like this, having a more clear of an understanding of where we're heading in those areas.
All right, let's move on to the second round of bonds. This is an information item. And Ms. Hennessy, you are here to help explain this to us. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming.
I'm gonna drive, Ryan.
Can you turn the mic?
Patty's gonna drive.
There we go.
Okay, great, thank you. So,
This is what
it's different.
it might be slightly different than the finance. Just passing out a hard copy of the presentation.
Okay, good, so you can see the small numbers in case you don't have it on your screen. Wait till you get your hard copies. Thanks. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a quick market update. Let's go to the next page. So this is the yield curve. On the y-axis we have the yield, and on the x-axis we have the years. And so the dark line shows the 30-year average for every year for interest rates. And the red line shows where we are now. Short-term rates are still elevated after the Fed raised rates 11 times, but have come down from where they were. We had a 50 basis point rate decrease in September and a 25 basis point decrease this past week. So if inflation continues to stay under control, we're hoping for rates to continue to go down. So you can see we're still elevated on the short term, but after year 5, rates are lower. Let's go to the next page. This is a the next page, sorry. Can we go to the next page? Thank you. We're getting there. It's stuck. you'll see a squiggly line on the next page. It is interest rates back from January of '93, and I'll just, while we're getting this back up, give you a quick commentary on impact of the election on November 5th. So there we go. This does not include November 5th, but kind of takes us through the Fed rate decrease in September. And the day after the election, interest rates went up 10 basis points in the municipal bond world and higher in the treasury bond world. Expecting inflation, the next 2 days rates came down. So we are in a volatile time with interest rates. So on average right now, we're pretty much where we were before the election. We're hoping we're going to have calmer markets as, you know, transition plan kind of comes into view. But the Fed did stay on track and did decrease interest rates by that quarter basis point as expected. It's unclear what the Fed will do in December. That's our next meeting. But if inflation stays low, hopefully they will continue to reduce rates. The prediction was they'd reduce rates 4 times in total 1% before the end of '24. Let's go to the next page. This is new legislation signed by the governor June 7th of '24. It takes fire prevention and safety bonds out of the tax cap. As you know, non-referendum bonds are typically limited by that debt service extension base, which is part of the tax cap that goes back to 1994 about how much we can levy each year. Now, life safety bonds are not subject to that cap anymore. So this is a very kind of exciting piece of legislation that's people have tried to get through for many years, and now it's done. Also, for bonds approved by the voters starting in November of '24, they are no longer subject to the debt limit, and the repayment may be extended from 20 to 30 years. The last piece is about building a new freestanding building to serve pre-K or kindergarten somewhere in the district. That is now allowed to happen without a referendum, but it does not offer any new funding source for that. So, at any rate. Let's go on to the next section and let's review the capital facility plan, FY '24 through '27. So this capital plan impacts Euclid, Indian Grove, and River Trail Middle School, and the capital projects are listed on the left. So there are some life safety work here, ADA, mechanical equipment replacement, electrical panel wiring replacement, galvanized pipe replacement, sprinklers, roof replacement, and pavement replacements. So the total cost of these projects was estimated just under $45 million. The sources of these funds is the sale of Nipper School, fund balance transfers over this period of time totaling $16.5 million, ESSER 3 funding, sale of alternate bonds in '24 and '25 totaling $20 million. So last year we did $10 million. This year we're looking at another $10 million. Debt service extension-based bonds or working cash bonds, estimated originally at $4.3 million, and then school maintenance grants for '24 and '25 totaling $100,000. So those are the sources of funding. Let's go to the next page. We've got your statutory debt limit is $32.4 million. Your working cash fund limit is $12.1 million at this point. Next page looks at the outstanding bonds you currently have. And the ones that have a yellow highlight are paid from the district's operating funds, mostly the O&M fund. The ones with the green highlight, those come from the debt service levy, which is a separate tax levy. So the alternate revenue bonds you see issued in '24, again, sorry, the print is small for those looking at home, but those go out 20 years, and they're payable from the O&M fund revenues. So that's taxes, property taxes, EBF funding, corporate personal property replacement taxes, any types of revenues you can run through that O&M fund. Then the next issue is the 21 bonds. Those are a refunding of the 2011 bonds plus about 984,000 of new money. 2019 was also a working cash bond refunding the 2007s and 6 million new money of working cash. The 17A and the 17 are qualified zone academy bonds that have pretty much zero interest cost. Those are special qualifications. Unfortunately, they're not available anymore for capital improvements at schools deemed a zone academy. Basically means they have 35% free and reduced lunch populations. And then 2016 debt certificates, 2 more payments on those. Those were for renovations. The highlighted, the dark pieces mean they're callable. And just a quick minute on this, when you have a home mortgage, you can refund those at any time. Municipal bonds can only be refunded after 8 to 10 years. And that's because investors won't let you sell them a bond that has that quick call feature, because then they won't get any of the interest payments if it's refunded right away. So we look at these opportunities for you to refund bonds and save interest. Your next call date is going to be in December of 2027 on the 2019 bonds. So the shaded portions represent those that can be callable. The 16s are callable right now, but at a 2.087 rate, it makes no sense to refund them. The rates are lower than we could get today. Okay, next page. This looks at the alternate bonds and the existing debt service paid from the operating funds, which is a combination of those QZABs and the 2016s. So those payments are at about $500,000 plus a year. And then the actual 2024 bonds, those payments are around $730,000 a year. This 25 bond is estimated to be about $763,000 a year. But on this interest rate, which we're currently at 4.38%, it has a cushion in it, as we always put these interest rate cushions in. This is 50 basis points, so if you were to issue it today, it would be close to the same rates last year or a little bit lower. So we're hoping that payment really is closer to the $730. So the total debt service, again, looks at the amount you're budgeting from the O&M fund. And earlier on your agenda, you had the resolution transferring $1,250,000 from the O&M fund to the debt service fund to make those payments. So that is something that's going to happen each year, so that the money is in the debt fund and then can pay the bonds when due. Let's go to the next page. This is a proposed working cash bonds this year, which we're suggesting would be issued at the same time as that next $10 million alternate revenue bond. The idea is if we issue them all at once, we're going to save issuance cost. So this is a bond issue that's subject to the tax cap debt service extension base. So it doesn't increase taxes, it just extends them, okay? So you can see the tax rate stays pretty steady at that 22-23 cents. Which it's already at, and of course we have no increase in EAV. It just increases by CPI each year. Okay. So that is going to be just under 4.7 million, which is a little more than we originally issued. It estimated of 4.3 million on the sources and uses of funds. So this is paid back over 10 years, and so the next time the district could issue these non-referendum bonds would be in 2035. Okay. So let's go to the next page. I think the graphic makes it a little clearer. So the green bars are the current payments on the debt service extension base, and then the blue bars represent that 4.7 million, the proposed DSEP bonds. And so you see they're all paid off by 2034. That blue line represents the limit on the amount you can pay off each year. You see it goes up a little bit each year with CPI. Okay, so kind of the best practice is to keep these paybacks around 10 years, just so future boards have opportunity to do this again. We did look at, when we looked at the overall financing plan, if you go to the next page, we talked about coming back with a $24 million bond in 2035. Obviously, that's 9 years out there. So lots can change between now and then, but that was to take care of the last part of the district's capital plan with regard to the middle school. And the next page looks at our schedule. We talked to the Finance Committee about this on November 4th, so we're sharing this today with the board. So the next, last year, we did authorize 20 million of alternate bonds. So there's no more authorization resolution to do on that. You can just go ahead and issue those bonds. But we have not yet authorized the up to 4.8 million of working cash fund bonds. So we're suggesting at your December 10th meeting, the board approves the authorizing resolution for up to 4.8 million of those working cash bonds and sets a public hearing for its meeting on January 14th on the issuance of the 4.8 million. Those are the two things needed to authorize that issue. We would then go to Moody's and renew the bond rating. We would have a due diligence call, put together the offering document, and then at the February 11th meeting, we would bring the bond resolution to the board authorizing both the alternate bonds and the 4.8 million working cash bonds. So it's two resolutions, but the bonds would be issued at the same time under one offering document. We would go to market the week of February 18th, assuming appropriate market conditions, close on March 5th. And then on, it says February 11th, sorry, that meant to be March 11th meeting. You would approve a resolution transferring the bond proceeds from the working cash fund to the capital projects fund. The 10 million alternate bond proceeds go directly into the capital projects fund, so then all your money would be there to proceed with your capital projects summer 25 and 26. Questions?
Any questions for her? All right, hearing none. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks for your patience.
We will see you at our December, no, we won't see you. We won't be back in December. The December 10th meeting.
Probably-
We could approve it without you.
Probably not, you can approve it without me, you're good.
Perfect, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Good to see you all. Like,
You too. All right, let me entertain a motion in a second to approve the tentative 2024 tax levy. I'm sorry, hold on. We gotta present it first.
Presentation.
Sorry, I was a step ahead of myself on the agenda. Take that back. Next up is the tentative 2024 tax levy. Who's got this one?
I'm back at it. So the tentative tax levy is the board's opportunity to basically assess taxes to all the residents and homeowners and landowners in the district. It is kind of where, Mr. Ron said, noted earlier, we receive basically 85% of our revenue from local sources, and a large chunk of that, probably 80%, 75, 80% of the district total revenue comes from the tax levy. In the tax levy, you're only allowed to receive as much as you are, let me start. You can ask for as much as you want, but you're only allowed to receive as much as you are obligated to get. So, in this year's tax levy, it is recommended to ask for a total of $27,150,000, which is a 4% increase over last year's tax levy. However, based on information that I received, we're only allowed to increase the levy by 3.4%, which was CPI from 2023. I think with new property and that increased, we will only actually receive 3.7% increase off of last year's tax levy. So again, we're asking for 4% in order to make sure that we encumber all the potential tax growth within the district that we're able to get. asking for 4% basically qualifies us that if there's $20 million in new property growth, we would get all that increase. I'm only actually potentially looking at $2 million, and I think that's still on the high side, and that's why I think we're only going to actually receive 3.7%. New growth is not included on the tax levy increase on that CPI. It's outside the CPI, and we're able to receive that money separately to increase the overall tax levy.
That's it?
Yes, next month we will hold a hearing for the tax levy. It is not required because the proposal is under 5%. However, I know it's the history of the board to hold the hearing, in which case we will most certainly do that.
All right, let me entertain a motion in a second to approve the tentative 2024 tax levy and the following schedule. November 12th, 2024, the board will certify the tentative levy. November 28th, 2024, we'll publish the legal notice in local newspapers. December 10th, 2024, the board public hearing and levy adoption will happen. And December 31st, 2024 is the final day to file the levy with the county clerk.
Moved.
Second.
Moved by Pfister, second by Ronstadt. Any comments or questions?
I think my comment is just, I wish that this was an easier process. Like, the fact that you have to assess, you're guessing, right? So you're assessing at a higher value, hoping that you understand or capture what is to be built or what the value is, and then the county will tell you if you got it right or wrong. But that it is always hard to the messenger, we're assessing as high as we can, but if you don't, you potentially miss out, and that's not just impacting homeowners, it's impacting the businesses that came in, which impacts what the homeowners would in fact pay us, their portion, because they look at it and then they divvy it up by the homeowner. So it is a little bit of a catch-22 to say, well, we're assessing at the highest value, but if we don't, we could guess wrong. So thank you for the explanation.
Exactly. We're increasing based on 2023 CPI, the 2024 tax rate, taxable assessment, to receive it in 2025. And we don't receive the actual total assessment for 2024 until, if we're lucky, May of 2025.
Government financing. Anybody else? Okay, Mrs. Johnson, could you please call roll?
Yes. Grimpy,
Yes.
Bianchini,
Yes.
I vote yes. Ronstadt,
Yes.
Pfister,
Yes.
Camardo,
No.
and Friedland.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, next up is the IASB delegate report. I am the representative for that. As you guys all noted, we put we tried it a little different this year, sent you guys all the resolutions, and Jody put together a package so that we saw how everybody voted, and we really only need to kind of go over the ones that had some question or points of discussion. So the board members that are in support of adopting resolutions 1 through 5, and this is do adopt per the ISB committee, was the dual language, was a 7-0 vote. The authorized charter school funding was a 7-0 vote. The tax increment financing, the TIF accountability was a 7-0 vote. Healthcare coverage was a 7-0 vote, and the polling place amendment was a 7-0 vote. Then we voted, we indicated not adopting the cell phone usage. That won 5 votes for no, 2 votes for yes. The criminal background check discussion, again, there were 5 votes for no and 2 votes for yes. So that kind of leaves the only ones to discuss would be the final 3, which is the Office of Inspector General. We had 3 yes votes and 2 no, so that's kind of close enough that we should vote. And then we also had one where we had a board member ask to discuss.
Could I ask,
So, please.
could I ask for clarification? So like on the cell phone usage,
Mm-hmm.
when I said yes, mine was yes, do not adopt. Is that what everybody else, so when they said no, did they mean no, go ahead and adopt it? You know,
I was no, do not adopt.
see, oh, no, meaning no, do not adopt.
Yes.
So,
Right, because they had put in,
I voted the same way you did, but yeah, I guess we must.
yeah, see, that's what I'm getting at. I don't know if a person's no meant,
when it, not from this packet, I see that you have it printed out differently, but like in the packet that Bill and Jody, provided us, right, it was already saying do not adopt.
Correct.
So,
right,
so
not
you were
said
agreeing.
yes, do not adopt.
Right,
So that's what I wanna make
No,
sure
I
that.
was, yeah, I'm the only person I think that read it backward who was actually in support of it.
Yes, oh, you mean,
I'm in support of, yes, being able to put in legislation to limit cell phone usage. Yeah.
do you follow what I'm saying?
Yes,
But the majority of the board voted to do not adopt.
correct, including Rhonda,
Correct.
Right,
but she wrote yes instead.
right.
I'm so confused.
Well, it says right here, when I went through the thing, it said, yes, do not adopt, and I said, yes, I agree, do not adopt. And I think other people looked at it and said, yes, I agree, no, don't adopt. So my yeses, when I wrote yes all the way across, I'm agreeing with what they put out. If they said do adopt, I agree. If they said do not adopt, I agree.
I'm the opposite.
You were the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I don't think we really have to talk about anything. I think all we have to do is figure out what your no's and yeses mean.
Just, yeah.
Right, but just on the bottom three.
Right, just the appeals, for the ones that are up for, right?
Oh,
The resolution's eligible for appeal.
oh, I'm
So
sorry.
It's the
Just
8,
those,
9, and 10.
just these,
Just the three back ones?
just those.
It's
Everything
the-
else would make sense.
hold on, Office of Inspector General, Faith Law, and Article 9. So it's 8, 9, and 11 on the spreadsheet.
8, 9, and 11. Okay.
I'm talking on the spreadsheet, the one that's on your, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, I see it, and I'm looking at what
Gotcha, okay.
ISD sent.
Just making sure we're on the same page, literally.
Yes, okay.
So for the one on the Office of Inspector General, we had 3 yeses and 3 nos. So would anyone like to start off the discussion on how they voted?
I would say no, do not adopt. I agreed with what the
ISB.
And my yes was yes, do not adopt. Oh, no.
Oh, boy. She agreed with
Well,
the
that's-
IAS.
So, yeah, so you agreed with the ISB's resolution or
Right,
recommendation.
So if you wanna change my yes to a no, or somebody's no to a yes?
Yeah, so does anybody want to adopt it?
I don't know
Not
whether
me.
to say yes or no. I don't know what that means.
Well, see, that's why I sent you an email saying, how do we want? Okay, so the recommendation is do not adopt.
Correct.
Who agrees do not adopt? Yay, do not
I
adopt.
agree, correct.
Yes.
Do not adopt.
I agree, do not adopt. 1, 2,
That's
3.
what they're recommending.
All right.
Okay.
There you go.
And what did you wanna talk about?
Right.
Oh, wait, so you don't wanna talk about it. So there's 3 Mrs.
No, I was on the fence,
So it's,
and it sucked at being on the fence of the tiebreaker. I was like, oh. I was debating with myself so much. Yes, I could be for, no, I'm against.
Yeah, the cell phone doesn't have to be discussed, because I
No,
was the
no,
only
it's not gonna be
person who
discussed.
was in support of that.
So unless you actually want,
no, we're only talking about
it's not great.
8, 9, and 11.
Okay, and number
So the
nine.
majority of people said do not adopt on 8?
Right.
On the Office of Inspector General.
Okay, we don't need to debate it. Majority rules.
Well, that's what we just discussed, 5 to 2. That's what it is. They do not adopt. So the next is Faith's Law.
All those in favor, it says do not adopt. Who agrees, do not adopt?
I agree, do not adopt.
Do not adopt.
2, 3, 4, 5.
What did I say?
Who says yes?
Correct. Number 9.
Do adopt.
Okay, is everybody good with their vote? It was 5 to, well, we had 5 do not adopt. Did anybody else, so it's 5 to 2. Did anybody want to change their vote? So it's 5 to 2, do not adopt. And then the last one is the Article 11, Section 5, Parliamentary Practice. This was a 4-3 vote. You have it up, what is the ISB recommendation, I'm sorry.
Yeah, what's the very first one? I remember this. Okay.
And that suggested to adopt it. And
Do you have a page number, Donna?
Yeah, I'm looking.
It's all. It was all the way at the beginning, it was before the
It
rest of
was
the
at
resolution.
the beginning on the resolutions, page 10. Is how. No, this is the amendment, right? Article. Oh, here it is. It's page 22.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
at the very
It's
end.
page 22.
Okay.
It's this one. Very last one. Mine is, I made this one first.
Right, and this one, there is no, this is straight up just how you want to vote. There's no,
Right, there's
correct,
no
there's no recommendation.
recommendation.
Because this would be an amendment.
And you've got a four yeses and 3
I have a
noes.
4-3 vote. So does anybody who, and majority would rule, but I don't want to shut out the 3 noes. If anybody wants to discuss their no, or is everybody okay with voting yes for the,
I just ask for clarification.
sure?
I don't know if I'll change my answer or not. So exactly what we're doing right now is discussing how we want our board delegate to vote.
Correct.
Is this, instead of the majority rules and not in the consent agenda, but it's an actual action item, we would now need 5 votes instead of 4 votes? Because it's saying 2/3, and it's can't be 2/3 on 7 people, so 5 out of 7 will get you over 66%.
Well, it's 2/3 out of the delegates, not out of each board. And I'm the delegate.
Okay, delegates. Okay, gotcha. What would you like to do as the delegate? What was it? Delegate
I'm one of the
recommendation?
no's. I voted no.
Okay. Based off of what?
I just didn't feel I wanted to make it a amendment to the Constitution. I didn't think it was a strong enough argument to change the Constitution.
That's a good answer, I guess. I'll say no. I don't know what I put in the thing.
You were a no,
Okay.
so our no's are still no's. But again, if, I don't have a problem, I'll vote against the way I personally would, if the board as a whole would prefer that's how we go, so. We're good with that? Or does anybody want to change their yes to a no? Speak now or hold on to your yes. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on what the question is that you want to discuss? It's a It's a fair point. Does
Yeah,
anybody
well, yeah, and
understand
I was with you, I just didn't feel like it was a convincing enough argument to really do anything,
I agree.
so.
Okay, so we will vote for the constitutional amendment, 4-3. All right, next up is the President's Report. That's me. Upcoming events, we have the ILMEA Junior Music Festival on the 16th. We're on Thanksgiving break, the 27th to the 29th. The schools and district office are both closed. We have an RTMS orchestra concert on the 2nd of December. On the 8th of December, the Hersey Holiday Band concert. The 9th of December, we have the RTMS Band and Chorus concert. On 12/4, we have a Prairie Trails Family Literacy Night. And our next Brewing with the Board will be on December 6th at 6 p.m. Jody's going to send out the community engagement opportunities for us in her Friday update. Please take a moment to review that to make sure you know which ones you signed up for, and please take any opportunity to sign up for additional ones should those opportunities still exist.
I
12/6 is the
It's actually the 4th.
Sorry?
It's the 4th.
The 4th. Bum, bum, bum.
And I apologize, can I add one more thing too? Because it's the craft fair, for the RTMS craft fair, their first annual, that they have a lot of vendors coming, and I know that it's not correct in the booklet that the village sent out. They put December 7th, but they put it for both that one and the Friendship Conservatory, so just to remember that on 12/8 is when the craft fair will be. Yeah.
And well, I don't know if the NSSEO event is. The NSSEO event that's on Saturday, which is the electronic sale. Is that something that we also add that as well?
What is it?
NSSEO is doing a fundraiser, the electronic sale.
Okay.
I believe.
12 what?
It's this Saturday, the 16th.
This Saturday?
Yes.
All right, November 16th. The NSSEO electronic sale, and it's being held where?
I believe. Believe it was at Minor. See, I know I still have the email.
All right, the next thing up on the President's Report is what? We had our professional development, and we kind of prefaced this, and we just kind of wanted to give you guys an opportunity to discuss what you thought, anything you took away. Hopefully you found it valuable use of your time, and I'd love to hear what you got from it.
First off, I have to back you up to the, first I have to back you up to the resolutions.
Yep.
Because we have to, there's a motion and a sec, we have to do a motion
Oh, okay.
to make you the delegate and
Okay.
have you vote in how we just instructed
You are welcome to not make me the delegate. That's if anybody else wants it. It's yours. But yeah, no, you're right. I apologize.
Okay.
So let me entertain a motion in a second to vote according to the consensus of the Board of Education to adopt the resolutions as recommended by IASB. All board members are in support of adopting resolutions 1 through 5. Do adopt per IASB committee. Those were 7-0 votes for dual language, EBF, authorized charter school funding, the TIF accountability, health care coverage, and polling place amendment. We also had most board members indicated not adopting cell phone usage and criminal background check discussion. What we came to a consensus tonight is 5-2 vote, do not adopt for the Office of Inspector General, do not adopt on Faith's Law, EHRs for current employees, and we voted 4-3 as a yes vote to amend the Constitution.
So moved.
Moved by Friedland,
Second.
second by Bianchini. Finally, any other comments or questions? Okay, Mrs. Johnson, could you please call roll?
Ronstadt,
Yes.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Camardo,
Yes.
Pfister,
Yes.
Friedland,
Yes.
Bianchini,
Yes.
and I vote yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Now
Sorry
we
about
can
that.
go.
You are correct. Would anyone like to share what they got out of our professional development?
Did you see how fast I hit that button?
No.
Go for
No, just, besides for the amazing little sticky notes that I use like every day to find my 5 things that I need to make actionable, I thought it was kind of one of the, not the first seminars that we've had, like where we really had steps and some tools like laid out for us on how to better plan and to be better prepared for situations that we might see pop up, or just how we can work more effectively with like not just the table up here but colleagues. Like I felt like it was very applicable and the skills that were given to us were transferable across various environments. So I really appreciated it, and I did use a sticky note like that for my daughter too. She needs to know.
Anybody else? Please.
Yeah, I agree. I think that in addition to making us better board members, I think all of us found something both professionally and personally that we can use in our lives. And so the couple of things I went through my notes and wrote down, the training was about trust and the importance of trust in an organization, and that the organizations that trust one another outperform other organizations by far. And so they have data to back that up. And a couple of then they went through, I think, 7 or 8 things that build trust. And so the ones that stood out to me are clarity, and they said clarity unites and motivates. And when I think about our strategic planning, when I think about the pyramid that shared goals across the district and the building and the board, like having that clarity helps everybody hopefully move forward with purpose and with direction. People trust the clear and distrust the ambiguous is what the quote was. It also reminds us of our values. So I was thinking of this quote as Mrs. Schiefert presented about, how we're progressing in our district. So great results speak louder than perfect ideas. So having, and this is true in all of our lives, like sometimes we get stuck trying to think of the perfect plan, but the best plan forward is some sort of action. And so I took that, I revisit the book often as I get frustrated with work or personal, like, what can I get motivated? But I think overall, the other thing they talked about was gratitude. And this past week, I've thought a lot about how thankful I am to be where I am, to be around people in our community. So thanks again for the training. I got a lot out of it.
That's great. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, touching on the trust topic, which is what this board education was about. From the beginning coming in, I was totally thrown off, wondering which direction it was going, but my takeaway at the end is I was thinking less about the trust within our board and between us, amongst us, but I think it's between developing the trust between us, the board, and then with the administration, and trust with the public. I think that's it. If we unify together, like our collectiveness in building our constituencies' trust in what we're doing, in our strategic plan, in our budget, maintenance and investments, I think that's where we should find the biggest takeaways in applying those 8 pillars, and how is that perceived with the public and the district.
Thank you. Anybody else? I enjoyed it myself. I will admit the industry that I work in is slightly volatile, so I had a little bit of a difficult time taking my employment hat off and having my board hat on during a lot of it, but that doesn't mean I didn't take anything out of it. I kind of made my vice president mad because I saw the slide that said 95% employees couldn't tell you what their company goal is. So in a meeting on a group chat, I put that in there and throw that out there for probably 80% of my company. And nobody's answered the question as to what our goal is, so I think that is accurate for my personal company. So maybe I got a big mouth and maybe I'll learn the hard way, but so yeah, I will openly admit that while I certainly got a lot out of it, I got more out of it on my professional level, but it was still, I found it still a really valuable use of my time. So I'm glad we all kind of chose that. I don't know if you remember before we determined it, we kind of did that collaboratively, so I'm glad we as a group picked that. Anybody else? Yeah.
I would happily do that training again next year. I thought that was by far the most valuable board professional development time we have. And to your point, Bill, you know, general leadership training there's never too much enforcement of it, and there's never, you know, just a good review and a good discussion of it. You know, those topics are, you know, and if it applied to you more in your workspace, you may think that, but you being a better leader, or us all being better leaders in whatever realms we are, will reflect in our board.
Sure, that's very valid. No, and I did the survey that we received. I don't know if anybody else filled that out. My only negative was that we really ran out of time and kind of had to come to an abrupt end. So I just either, you know, do we need to allocate more time to do it if we were to do the same one next year, which I would be for. You know, obviously, again, either allocate more time, or they need to mold it slightly so it's more a little more concise. Because for a change, we really stayed on topic, which we struggled as a group, and I struggled keeping you on topic. But I thought we did a nice job, and yet we ran out of time. We kind of had to run through those final slides quickly, and who knows what we could have got out of them. So that was my only negative.
Which that in and of itself is a positive reflection on the training, because, you know, anytime you can sit for, 2.5 hours, and we were very focused, very engaged. I absolutely loved the coined phrase of putting on my idea pants and going in, so I definitely used that one. And I too did throw out to my staff, you know, mission statement. How do we feel? And reflecting on how the district demonstrates that is such a good example of how that is meant to be. So it was reinforcement that the district here is doing it correctly.
Now, Robert, I have a question. Do you guys as a board have to do professional development, or is that done in the home districts only?
We have done, like, we've gone out to like Sunrise and done some professional development, yes.
Okay.
I'd have to, you call me on the spot here.
I apologize.
No,
I
have to think about when the last time we did that, but, you know, we've got a pretty senior group of board members.
Sure.
But that's.
So you don't have an annual requirement like we do?
Not by any rule, no.
Okay.
Because we're all board members.
That's kind of what I was asking. Yeah. Okay. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, I just, I think it's
Totally
a good thing. There's never too much professional development, but we only have so many hours in the day either. So.
All right, next up is the superintendent's report. Dr. Mergley, you're on. Finally, you can talk.
I love this spot on the agenda. So before I get to my agenda item, I do also want to congratulate the staff, the students, and the administration on the commendable school ratings. Again, you know, I think you all, or most of you, have heard Tony Sanders speak about the state assessment system and how broken it is, and so we are chasing a target that we don't know what it actually looks like. The commendable designation is not the same number every year. So, you know, I love that we just keep working hard, we keep digging in, and the results are what we expect with the work that we put in. But I just wanted to remind you that you have heard from the state superintendent that this assessment system needs to be revamped, and that's definitely something that he's working on. But I do know how hard everybody works in this district, so they should be proud of the outcome there. Also, I did want to congratulate that boys cross-country team. It's a couple weeks old, but second in the state by 1 point, and that's amazing. They won first in the state last year, so back-to-back state wins is pretty impressive. So congratulations to them, and then also getting to the data sharing agreement, just a little bit of background. This came up 2 years ago, actually from the Maine Township group that I meet with both sides of the river, and so we started having that conversation on that side of the river. However, for myself, who splits kids into 2 high school districts, I wanted to make sure that for the majority of my kids, I also had the conversation with District 214. So I started asking about it, I think at least 2 years ago. And at that time, the assistant superintendent for, and I don't know Laz's title, but instruction over at 214 was probably my primary go-to on this. And so he thought that we had something. Anyways, it took a couple of years. New superintendent actually brought it to all of the feeder districts and said, hey, what do you guys think about a data sharing agreement? I'm like, yay, finally. So we all have the same language. The attorneys reviewed it. And so now the plan is, now Maine Township has a new superintendent. They have data sharing agreements with all of their feeder schools. So now I need to just tie that loose end up. And so that's where that's at. More background, we share data with the high school. I mean, it's essential. They place kids, we give them our kids. And so this really just outlines makes me feel better about outlining what we're sharing, why we're sharing it, who's handling it, who are the point people, for basically what school districts have done for years. So it just formalizes that process. Any questions about that?
Okay, let me entertain a motion in a second to accept the data sharing agreement with District 214 as presented.
Moved.
Second.
Moved by Camardo, second by Friedland. Last chance, comments or questions?
No, I just thank you for pulling this together and making it so much easier. It just seems like a no-brainer, but I know that it's challenging to not have that document out there.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, Mrs. Johnson, could you please call roll?
Yes. I vote yes. Friedland?
Yes.
Ronstadt?
Yes.
Camardo?
Yes.
Pfisterer?
Yes.
Grimpy?
Yes.
And Bianchini?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Anything else for you?
No.
All right. All right, next up is our policy 2 subset 140, communications to the board. We had a number of emails from the organization Comfy Knowledge that were received and shared and responded to accordingly. We had 2 FOIA requests. Thank you, Patty and Ryan and Joey and everybody else who worked on them. Future topics, again, we're going to be recognized at the March 4th North Cook Divisional Dinner, so I'm just going to bring that up at every meeting until it happens, so make sure that is on your schedule. Next week, we have our Triple I conference downtown. I have been contacted by some of the members of District 57, to see if anybody who's going to be down there Saturday night would like to do anything socially with them. We have no idea as to where it's going to be. It would just be a social event where we can try to find some place that could kind of accommodate the group that ends up doing it. So if you're going to be down there Saturday night and would like to do it, the goal is to do it somewhere within walking distance, obviously, of the hotel. But we'll kind of be organizing this on the fly. I'm taking the lead on this for us, but if anybody has any interest in it, let me know so I can make sure that you're included in the communication. Does anybody have any items for future consideration? Okay, hearing none. Do we have any closed session? I don't remember asking. Okay, then let me entertain a motion in a second to adjourn the meeting at 9:40 p.m.
So moved.
Moved by Friedland.
Second.
Second by Pfisterer. Mrs. Johnson, could you call roll?
Yeah. Okay. Ronstadt?
Yes.
Pfisterer?
Yes.
I vote yes. Bianchini?
Yes.
Grimpy?
Yes.
Camardo?
Yes.
Friedland?
Yes.
We're adjourned.
We're adjourned. Our next meeting is December 10th.
Every part of my meeting.
Happy birthday, Bob.
Even though